Hello, everyone. Welcome to Phil's Place, episode 3 of this brand new podcast. I am flying solo on this one like I did for the first episode. Just not as nervous now that I got a couple of these down. Um, but I want to get on here to talk about Paul McCartney and his importance to many, many, many people, his influence on many, many people, including me. Um, he played in Pittsburgh last night at PPG Paints Arena, sold out show. The gentleman's 83 years old. He played 3 hours straight. I can't remember how many songs he played. I know it was in the 30s. I wasn't there. I wanted to go, but the ticket prices were just too steep. And I can't sit in the upper bowl anymore because it's too steep. I say that jokingly, but seriously, I just can't do the upper bowl anymore. And so anyway, I was looking at seats in lower bowl and the floor, and even like an hour before the show, the prices really didn't come down much, and so I sat this one out. Um, my wife and I did see him in 2010 at back then it was called Consol Energy Center, and it was a fantastic concert. It was just unbelievable. Definitely a top three for me in all the concerts I've been to. Um, Back then, he was 68. Um, Still had a very strong singing voice. Has the same backup band that he's had, for a pretty long time now, at least a couple decades. They sound like the Beatles. They sound like Wings and all of Paul McCartney's solo stuff. Excuse me. And he, I think, is probably the single most influence for me as far as my love for music. Again, not just with the Beatles, but I love his solo work, and I thought Wings was a great band without question. So he does mix in his set list songs from the Beatles, Wings, and all of his solo work too. So all that said, I read a lot of posts last night and saw quite a few videos of friends of mine on Facebook who were at the show, and all of them just said what a great concert it was. So I missed out. There's no question about that. Um, Probably his last time playing in Pittsburgh. Um, don't know if this will be his last tour, but like I said, he's 83 and he's still going strong, which is just absolutely amazing. And it's a testament to how much he loves music. He had been playing piano since he was a little kid. Um, and to me, I think when it comes down to songwriting and putting together a song, there's nobody better than him. His partnership with John Lennon was a great one. The songwriting they share the rights to all the Beatles songs back at that time they did, and it didn't matter if it was a Paul song or if it was a John song. They collaborated with most of their songwriting, but it's always Lennon and McCartney. And then they broke up in 1970, and he went on to a solo career right away. He didn't take any breaks. And then in 73, I think it was, he formed Wings with his wife, Linda McCartney, and Denny Lane, who actually was an original member of the Moody Blues. So, but that catalog of the Wings, so many good songs. And then he went solo in the 80s. The 80s was cool because the movie Spies Like Us, Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase, one of my favorite movies back when I was a teenager. And he did the theme song Spies Like Us. And it's a really, really good tune, actually. But one he doesn't normally play in concert, from what I understand. But going back to Paul and his influence, it's a strong one for many, many people, musicians, uh, casual fans like us. In fourth grade, I remember our music teacher at the time, Ernie Pontier, who himself, he's a great musician. He actually taught us some Beatles songs in music, and he would sing them to us. And I had a lot of respect for that. I'm glad that he I want to say he pushed the Beatles on us, because I think he probably talked about some other bands too back then. I don't remember, but I remember him, uh, doing the Beatles with us, and it was really really cool. Um, I think everybody in my family probably had Beatles albums. There were, I don't know how many record players that we had in our house in Thornburg, but I do remember in 1977. And don't ask me why I know the year, but I do. I just have that kind of memory. My brothers Billy and Gerry, who are twins, they had some people over, some of their friends from the neighborhood, and they brought out one of the record players out onto the side porch. And if I recall correctly, Gerry was holding the Blue album. So the Beatles had the Red album, which was 1962 to 1966, and then the Blue album, 1967 and 1970, all their greatest hits, 2 album sets apiece. And I just remember him saying, "Oh, here's Hey Jude, here's this song, that song." And I'm looking at the album for the first time, and the front has a picture of the four that was actually recreated from a picture from 1962, which is on the back side of the album. And it's vice versa on the Red album. And I'm looking at these pictures of these four guys, and it's like, how can this be the same four people? Because in 62, they were clean cut. In fact, I think Ringo Starr had his hair slicked back, and the other three, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and George Harrison, had already adopted their mop tops. And then looking at the picture of them from 1969, long hair, mustaches, beards. I think Paul McCartney was the only one that was clean shaven. But to me, they just looked like two different bands, and it was mystifying. So that was part of the allure for me as a little kid. And I really got into their music throughout elementary school, them amongst many, many other bands, which today would be considered classic rock. We'll talk about that in future episodes. But I think what's cool about Paul McCartney and the Beatles is the fact that they're from Liverpool, because there were no other bands back then that were from other cities. They seemed like all the major labels and all the bands back then were from London. If you're fact checkers, you can correct me on that one by commenting when I have this posted on YouTube. But here they were in Liverpool. They finally got Brian Epstein as their manager, who did a lot for them. Got them to London. Did their first recording session with George Martin, who many consider to be the fifth Beatle because of his magical work as a producer, who put together all these songs with them. And they hit it big right away. Suddenly in '63, they were playing all throughout England, selling out shows in these theaters and stuff like that. And then in February of 1964, they came to America for the first time. They played the Ed Sullivan Show. They did 5 songs. I think I have this remembered. They started off with All My Loving, and then I can't remember the name of the second song. It was a cover. And then they go straight into She Loves You. And then there was a break. And then they came back on and did I Saw Her Standing There. And then I Want to Hold Your Hand. So at that point, Beatlemania, the British invasion, just really, really took over the United States at that point. And I have older siblings who, Bobby was probably a freshman in high school. Kathy and Melanie would have been in middle school. And they remember, and I remember asking them if they watched, and they did. My brother Bobby ended up with some Beatles albums, and my dad's only role back then with them, and like it was with me growing up, was you play your albums no matter the music, but just don't play them too loud. So, and then I found that neighbors of mine in Thornburg, where I was born and raised, there were Beatles records in their houses, and And then at that point, it's like, okay, it seems like everybody has Beatles albums. So they were a big influence on me for sure. Paul McCartney, especially. I think he was, is definitely my favorite Beatle. He's right behind me right now. I hope I'm not breaking any rules. I apologize in advance if I am. Um, but yeah, he just is one of the best ever. And I'm glad that he came back to Pittsburgh. I'm the type of person who gets really excited when um, recording artists they come and play in Pittsburgh. Um, when they built a new hockey arena in 2010, it was actually definitely more suitable for arena shows because they had more space, they had more openings to get all their gear in, build their stages and all their screens and everything. So the Civic Arena was losing shows actually in the 2000s because of that. But Paul McCartney opened the arena with 2 concerts. Um, so him being from Liverpool and me growing up in Pittsburgh, it seems like the 2 cities are definitely alike in many ways. The 2 cities are in the northern parts of their respective countries. The 2 cities are very industrial, blue collar mindsets, and that's how we were raised in Pittsburgh. And I'm sure that's how most people from Liverpool, Manchester, Newcastle, etc., were raised too back then. So to me, them being from Liverpool, where everybody else was from London in that time period, it says a lot about just how great they were. Um, Paul McCartney, after the first show in 2010, at the time, Mayor Luke Ravenstall came up to me, approached him, and said, "Hey, you got a Detroit Red Wings decal on your acoustic guitar. This is the same acoustic guitar that he uses for the song Yesterday." And he said, "I think you need a Penguins decal as well." Paul said, "Sure, Sir Paul." And he's had that Penguins decal on that acoustic guitar since then. So I think that's really cool when you see footage of him playing throughout the 2010s and in the 2020s. Anytime he's playing Yesterday, you see that Penguin decal, which is like super, super cool. And it's a Pittsburgh thing for us. We're all big Pens fans, like we are the Steelers, Pirates. So, yeah, there's just a lot of similarities with the 2 cities. In Liverpool, they have 2 soccer teams that are in the Premier League, the top tier league for English soccer, English football. And the 2 stadiums used to be right next to each other. Liverpool moved to a new stadium on the docks, right on River Mersey. But imagine having 2 stadiums for the Steelers and another football team a mile apart from each other. I don't know how us Pittsburghers would survive getting along with people, having family members and friends and relatives who are either a Steelers fan or that other team's fan. But that's what they grew up with in Liverpool. This heated rivalry between Liverpool Football Club and Everton. Just again, Stanley Park separating the 2 stadiums. Just really, really neat stuff. There's no question about that. But the Beatles, Paul McCartney, I remember in 4th grade, at Ingram Elementary, our music teacher, Mr. Pontier, Ernie Pontier, who's played in a lot of bands here in Pittsburgh. His name's pretty well known, actually. Introduced us to the Beatles as 4th graders, and he would actually sing some of the songs to us, play the music, and so you can tell what an influence even back. That would have been the 79-80 school year, that the Beatles were to everybody. Local musicians, I'm sure our teachers, everybody liked the Beatles a lot. So, but why am I talking about this? Because to me, I think he's definitely the best recording artist in the history of rock and roll, the best songwriter in the history of rock and roll. Um, his catalog is just amazing, and there's nobody else that has a catalog like him. Um, I don't even know how many number one songs he has with the Beatles, with Wings, and on his own. I didn't do that research for this. I just came up to talk and give my utmost respect and my appreciation for him, especially since he was just in Pittsburgh last night. I had a lot of friends who were at the concert, um, and some of them put up videos they shot from their phones. And yes, being 83, he doesn't have the strongest singing voice anymore, but that's a given with his age. But he can still perform. He went 3 hours straight. I think the set list had at least 30 some songs, and may have been a couple of encores, but he's going straight through without even taking a sip of from a glass of water. Boom, boom, boom. One hit song after another, after another, after another, and just has so much energy. Um, he's incredible, and I'll be curious to know when I have this posted on YouTube what some of your favorite memories are of the Beatles and all of his solo work and his work with Wings. I had read Scott Mervis, who is the music writer for the Pittsburgh Post Gazette. I actually kind of Scott a little bit. He knows his stuff, and he had said in the article about grandparents taking their grandchildren um, to the concert. I'd seen some posts on social media, people saying that they saw the Beatles in 1964. Glad that he came back to play again. We're talking 51 plus years later, maybe, I guess, since then, since the first concert. He was 68 when we saw him in 2010. Uh, just a marvelous concert. I still talk about it to this day with friends of mine. We talk about some of the best shows we've ever been to, the best concerts we've ever been to, and Paul McCartney is definitely top three for me, for sure. Um, so I just wanted to use this time to reflect um, of his importance to his contributions to music all across this planet. I know when he tours, he plays throughout Europe, plays in South America. Um, might still be going to Asia. I don't really know that, but no matter where he's playing, the concert's sold out. So it speaks a lot to his testament as a musician, as a songwriter, and everything he's done for music and for rock and roll. Um, so again, I'm just glad that he came back to Pittsburgh. He's had a few tours since he's put together this band that he has. They're excellent musicians. Anytime if you've seen them in concert yourself, they do sound like the Beatles. They do sound like Wings, and they do perform all these songs. Like from his solo work, um, perfect, masterful. They don't miss a note. Um, and so the production part of it is also phenomenal with his stage show. I understand last night he was using lasers, um, and he just put together a great concert. So he's one of my favorites for sure. Probably my favorite, to be honest with you. Um, U2 is my favorite band. I'll be talking about them in the future episode of Phil's Place, um, and how much of an impact that band has had on me as a person and to the music that I listen to this day. So again, please drop your comments if you were at the show last night or if you've been to past concerts of Paul McCartney, and like to hear what you have to say about him and the impact that he has had on all of you. And then we can just trade some messages on YouTube. I'll post this to Facebook, and yeah, that's about it. So I'll be doing additional episodes here coming up. I've had some really, really exciting guests that I'll be talking to, interviews / conversation like we did with episode 2 with David Buffalini and Joe Monroe. So I have those. I have 3 scheduled. I'll have more scheduled in December, and we'll just keep belting these out about once or twice a week. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I want to thank my sponsors, Curtanage Construction, Clark Analytical Instruments, and Invisio. And this is in partnership with Clark Travel. It's my travel agency that I've been in operation with since April of 2025 of this year. And if you're looking to book a vacation, it doesn't matter if you want to go on a cruise, if you need hotel stays, throughout the States or anywhere in the world, really, any resorts, I'm your person. I take great care of my customers. I pay very, very close attention to detail. And I definitely, hit and hopefully exceed all the needs that they have for anyone I've sent out so far this year. So you can find me on Facebook at Clark Travel. All my contact information is on the page. And I look forward to hearing from you if you're looking to, like I said, go on a vacation sometime soon. So, okay, thank you very much. And you'll see me in episode 4, probably at the end of next week. My next guest is David Finoli, who is a writer, a publisher, numerous books about all the sports teams, the history of the sports teams here in Pittsburgh. Not just the Penguins, the Steelers, the Pirates, Pitt football, Pitt basketball, golf. I mean, he has it all covered. He's a great writer, great guy. Looking forward to having him on the show. So, all right, I'm going to sign off. Looking forward to, again, seeing your comments. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything but a click. And I hope that you found this episode to be interesting and fun. Okay, take care. Have a great evening.